5 million Americans have Alzheimer's, and with the nation's aging population, that number is expected to triple by 2050. But why does the disease afflict some and not others? Here to help answer that question are Subhojit Roy, Associate Professor of Pathology and Neuroscience at UC San Diego, and Dr. Maria Carrillo, VP of Medical and Science Relations for the National Alzheimer's Association. Welcome.
Thank you.
And Dr. Roy, your research has found that we all have the same building blocks, basically, that sort of can create Alzheimer's. So how come we don't all get it?
So what we found is that even though we have the building blocks for creating the disease, what happens is that these two building blocks are actually shipped, if you will, in two different containers inside the cell. So the building blocks don't really come together, which they have to do to initiate the pathology and the disease.
So it's a protein and an enzyme, I understand, from what I could gather. So they're in separate containers, but in Alzheimer's they come together. How would you, discovering this, how would that change how Alzheimer's is treated?
Well, it's a little early at this point, but I think it leads to sort of a new therapeutic avenue to explore, at least, where if we can kind of keep these two containers separate and prevent them from coming together to create the amyloid pathology, that's an exciting avenue.
Right, so now you know there's two separate things that have to co-mingle, and if you can keep them apart, that might be a beneficial treatment.
Right. Exactly.
Okay, and Dr. Carrillo, there's no cure for Alzheimer's, as we know, but could you tell us about some of the latest treatments?
Absolutely. I mean, certainly there are some symptomatic agents that are available today to relieve people who are having memory problems that are approved by the FDA. Unfortunately, none of those will slow down the progression of the disease or even stop it altogether. So Dr. Roy's work and the work of others has shown us that there are a variety of therapeutic approaches out there, not only dealing with the proteins and the building blocks, but dealing with inflammation, potentially with the role diabetes can play in Alzheimer's disease, the role that strokes and potentially epileptic seizures can actually play a role in sparking the disease. So there's a lot of therapeutic approaches being investigated, and we at the Alzheimer's Association certainly fund quite a bit of them because no stone can be left unturned.
Yeah, and you mentioned the diabetes. I understand there was a study kind of linking glucose and high glucose and Alzheimer's. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure. Well, certainly there's no such thing as diabetes in the brain, but diabetes actually has huge implications on the entire body, including the brain. Certainly, even from the changes in your vasculature, your arteries and your veins that comes with diabetes, but also the insulin resistance that can happen in the brain. So trying to find ways to combat that. And we also know that diabetes is a risk factor for Alzheimer's disease. So how does all that work together? That's under deep investigation today.
More research for you, Dr. Roy. Now, I know for years there's been a lot of chatter about preventing dementia by doing crossword puzzles, keeping your brain active. Is there any research that supports that?
Oh, absolutely. There is I would say really good evidence that if you engage in mental activities, then you not only reduce the deposition of amyloid beta in your brains, but you also delay the onset of Alzheimer's disease, both in animal models. It's been shown very clearly, and a lot of epidemiologic studies have confirmed that.
So you've come up with this idea, and you're going to progress on the research with this. What are some of the barriers that you encounter as far as trying to progress on trying to treat Alzheimer's? Is it anatomical with the blood-brain barrier? Is it corporations and drugs? Is it all of the above?
So it is all of the above, but unlike if you think about cancer and compare it to Alzheimer's, we have so many sort of therapeutic approaches for cancer, but none for Alzheimer's. So in addition to all the problems that we have, the biological problems for cancer, in Alzheimer's disease and for that matter other diseases of the brain, we have the problem that we have to get that drug inside the brain. And that's also a tremendous challenge. So yeah, basically all of the above.
And Dr. Carrillo, what are some of the challenges with developing drugs for Alzheimer's? Is it cost? What's going on there?
I think certainly resources, money is one of the biggest challenges that we all face in the community. Certainly at the National Institutes of Health level, there have been a lot of challenges in funding at the federal level. The Alzheimer's Association, not only the Public Policy Office in Washington, D.C., but really the state office that the San Diego and Imperial chapter work on, our local office here, we really push for funding for researchers like Dr. Roy because we think that that's a critical part of trying to make sure we understand the disease process before we try to treat treat it.
Right, maybe a whole new way. We'll find out. So, Dr. Roy and Dr. Carrillo, thank you so much, and good luck with your research.
Thank you.
Thank you.